Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. Today we are going to discuss a new podcast that we are, what do you say it? We're in the foundation stages, or how would we say it? Yeah, so we
Building.
are, yeah, we just want to have a discussion with everyone about heart, spirit, reality, just focusing on whatever questions that comes up. Our whole idea of bringing up this podcast, Heart, Spirit, and Reality, is to answer the questions and discuss things that others don't discuss. Because even though we're all spiritual, sometimes there's things that we don't really discuss with others. So that's what we're doing today. So thank you all for joining us. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Jade. Hi, little Dino. Yeah, thank you guys. Oh, Debbie Romero is here too. And of course, Marie, you can always chip in and say whatever you wanna to say, right? So
Yeah. I think it's exciting. It's really exciting to have a space, for people to be able to ask the hard questions, the ones that maybe they're afraid to ask in their normal group or anything like that. And to really focus on a lot of authenticity and honesty. And to also be open, right, to different perceptions and what people think is always a little bit different. And people have such a wide variety of thought processes and beliefs and experiences and things like that. And I think it's amazing to have a section or a space like Heart, Spirit, and Reality where we can actually talk about that kind of stuff and listen to each other and share stuff and be okay with disagreeing. We can agree to disagree, and there's nothing wrong with that. And each of us, me included, you included, are going to learn so much from each other. And just by having open discussions about difficult subjects that people are afraid to bring up. So I'm really excited about this podcast that we're just kind of building and starting to put together.
yeah, I am too, because sometimes you feel all alone, that maybe you're looking into it too much, or maybe you're not where you're supposed to be. You know how that is, right? So I have been there. So I was quite happy when you brought this idea to me, for us to do this together. So thank you very much. And I'm grateful that everyone is here. And thank you very much, Debbie Romero, for congratulating us. And yeah, so I don't know, what do you want to discuss today, Marie? Do you just want us to put it out there, or how do you want to go about doing this?
What might be really good is let's ask the people that are here if anybody's got something that they've often wondered about or kind of questioned that they've maybe just been afraid to bring up, and that might like get a conversation rolling, which would be kind of cool. And it's okay. This is an absolutely safe space. We will not judge for anybody's perceptions or thoughts or anything. We're just very open to hearing what people think, and let's just talk about stuff and see what ideas we each have and go from there.
Yeah, yeah. And do you want these questions to be kind of like just life, spirituality, or what?
I think
Someone
let's
already asked the question. How can you tell the difference? John is asking, how can you tell the difference between your thoughts and spirit?
Oh, I love this question. Because honestly, this is a really big one for me. And this is something that I have really worked on for many, many years. I'm not going to lie, like over a decade or more. And so the way that I look at that is we're talking about discernment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between what the mind is and what spirit is. And to be honest with you, I can only speak from my experience and what I've learned so far in my life. And I look forward to learning so much more as I step each day into a new day of life. But what I wanted to say is it's really about learning about yourself, right? And you learn about how your mind works, and you start to become aware of how, because our mind is a tool, really. Like a lot of us really think that our mind is everything. Like everything is based in the mind. And that's kind of how we're taught, as we're growing up, we're taught that everything is based in the mind. And really the mind is a tool, is how I look at it. And so everything really is based on what we feel. What do we feel in our heart? What do we feel in our solar plexus or our power center? And it's going to be a lot of times different than what our mind says to us. So it's really like this journey about becoming aware of the mind and the chatter of the mind. And then also, what do you feel? Right. So if something comes up and you're like, wait, is that spirit or is that the mind? The more that you work with how your mind works and becoming aware of how your mind works, then what you do is you feel into it, right? You're like, oh, this is what I'm hearing. How does that feel in my heart? How does that feel in my center? And does it feel right or does it not feel right? Mm-hmm. And so this is something, and it's never going to be 100%, right? When you're first learning it, like you have to really work towards it and really make mistakes and understand and let it show itself to you. So it's really this discernment between the mind and spirit. And once you understand how your mind works and you start to understand what is just chatter and what is actually real, then for me, then I know when I get information from spirit and then I feel into it, and then I know if it's my mind or if it's spirit. And even still today, I can be doing a reading or working with somebody, and I'm at the point where something comes in, I'll know because I can feel into it and I'll know, well, that's my mind. I'm going to leave that and I'm going to come over here. So it's really a lot of self-reflection and self-work really on learning how your mind works. So that's kind of how it's been for me. How has it been for you, Janice? Because, we're all different and we all experience it differently.
Yeah, for me, I'll be honest with you. I just learned the awareness of myself. I have learned that one, like getting to know myself better, getting to know how my energy feel, getting to know, build that relationship with spirit. That has really helped me a lot. So I know when it's coming from spirit, the awareness is already there. But when I was starting out in the beginning stages, I always questioned it. So I would just sit and take a few deep breaths, and I would just allow my breath to let it know, is it coming from me or is it coming from spirit? That's what I used to do. But it all comes down to feeling, becoming aware of who you are, as a person and as a spirit, as a soul, and then allowing spirit. You will get to that point where you're going to know when spirit steps in, because they're going to make their presence be felt, especially at the beginning. So that's how it's been for me. It's all about building that relationship with my own self, getting to know myself, how I feel. Then when spirit steps in, it's going to be that awareness is there, that's coming from spirit or from someone else, from my loved ones, or how it is, spirit, loved ones, you guys, whatever you want to call it, right?
And what's fascinating to me about that is, and this is why I love this so much. It's because, for me, the discernment between what the mind is and what spirit is and all of that has been such a big thing that I've worked on for so long. And also there's so many pieces to it, because everything that you just talked about, I absolutely understand and also have worked on. And so, and I know that there's more aspects to it. Do you know what I mean? So it's just really interesting, and I love hearing all the different things.
Yeah.
Oh.
Little Dinosaur is asking, how do you do mediumship? How do you communicate with the past loved ones?
Do you want to take that one, Janice? Because you've been doing the live readings.
For me, I'll be honest, when it comes to mediumship, it's just about the allowing and inviting spirit to just step forward. That's all that it has come to me. It's very simple. I know that a lot of people complicate it, that you have to be there. Where is it the clair? Which clair is being used? For me, it's just about inviting spirit. holding that space for spirit and inviting them to step forward, inviting them to become one with you. And then in that oneness, you're going to be able to feel the essence of who they are. You're going to be able to get to know who they are. Let them tell you the story. It's all about, for me, it's about inviting, allowing, and just opening your heart, allowing the flow to be. That's how it is for me. It's not complicated. Don't worry about which clair you're working. You're going to get to that point that all the clairs are going to blend into one, and you won't even be focused anymore about which clair you're getting the information from. That's how I feel it is. I just feel that sometimes we complicate it too much.
I agree with you on that. And Jan talks about just expanding on the reading and the mediumship a little bit. She's talking about when I try to read for someone, I know it's difficult because I know them already, so it's hard. And to be honest with you, I know some mediums that just won't read for people that they know. They just won't because of that. In my experience, I can only talk again from my experience, and that is when a lot of times when I'm connecting with spirit and I'm reading for somebody and I do know information or I've read for them before, I'm very honest about it. Sometimes spirit will still bring in similar or the same information. And then I just let them know, what's coming through. But I also mention, I know that we've spoken about this before, or it's come through before, and spirit is bringing it through for a reason. Let's just let things unfold and see what the reason is for. And then I also, just mentally ask spirit to please also bring through information that hasn't come through before, but the thing of it is really spirit is intelligent and they know what they want to say. And for me, I feel like as a medium, I just want to be very authentic and acknowledge that it's something that maybe we've spoken about before or that's come up before in a different way. And that's okay. And then let's just continue with the reading. So for Jan, I would just be, just don't really focus on worrying about that and just be very open to whatever information comes through. And then also be very authentic and honest and being like, we've talked about this before, and remain open and see what else comes. So that's for me been my experience on that.
Yeah, and I do feel it's just like what Jan was saying in there too. The more you practice, the more you learn how you work, how you receive things, because each of us are unique and we can all be mediums, but spirit communicates with each of us differently, and every spirit communicates differently with every medium. I have realized that too. Sometimes we can establish that recognition of how the energy fields of that spirit if we have read them before, but sometimes they still come and communicate differently, than they use different clairs or whatever else, and they show us different sides of themselves. So,
well, I have an example that's actually really good. I was reading for someone in one of the classes that I've read for before, and his grandmother came through, and she comes through a lot. But the interesting piece is I usually know right away that it's his grandmother because I'm familiar with her energy and what she brings through. But this time, she came through in a totally different way. And we were partway through the reading before she revealed to me that she was the grandmother and the same grandmother. So it was very, very interesting. So again, it's just really important to be open and to allow the information to come, whatever it is, and don't judge it, right? Just let it be. And so, yeah, it's a good example.
Yeah, Monica, I am a Belize. I come from Belize. Yeah, beautifully said, Marie. Beautifully said. And Jan was saying, I try and meditate and see if I can feel or speak with spirit, but can't break through. You hear what you said, you try. I do feel when connecting with spirit is all about inviting and allowing, and just let go of any expectation. I know at the beginning, especially if we have loved ones in spirit, we want to connect so badly, but just let our words play a big role also. So don't say try, just say, I invite spirit to blend with me. Allow me to feel you, however you feel that is needed, because spirit knows exactly what we need and how they need to connect with us. So don't try, just allow and see how that works for you.
Yes, and intention is always very important. What Janice was speaking about, setting the intention for what it is that you want, and then just spending the time being there.
Yeah, so that's like what I have said. Mediumship is so beautiful because we each do it differently. That's the reason I love to see other mediums work, is because you can see how, each of us bring out our own personality in our readings. I don't know if you have realized that, Marie, that each medium reads differently and their personality shows in their reading at times.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, that's a great example of spirit using us differently. And we can also expand on that and say there are some mediums that don't talk about hard things because that's not what spirit is using them for, right? That channel or that hollow bone or however you want to describe it, they're using maybe this specific medium has strengths in certain ways, and that's how spirit uses that medium, if that makes sense, right? And then you have some mediums that they're actually shown some of the more difficult things, like how they passed or this type of a thing, and so then that's how they read. And the one of the things that I can make a suggestion about, and you mentioned this earlier about not getting too wrapped up in the different clairs, right? I've worked with mediums that are very much vocal about I see things, and clairvoyance, and that's it, kind of a thing. And so then when they read, they're super focused on that, and they're missing the feeling behind it, right? So just allow what you may be really great at clairvoyance, and you may be really great at other things, but be open to being good at everything. And the most important piece is always, 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 no matter how the information comes through, is feeling into it. So if I see something, I'm going to feel into it. If I hear something, I'm going to feel into it, right? And then the full message forms. Usually, that's how it works.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels like sometimes it's like I feel in and then poof, it's gone. Sometimes when you work with spirit and you have been meditating or doing any type of spiritual work, at the beginning you're going to feel it more, because I do feel that spirit trying to just give you that reassurance that they're there. But it does get subtle, because even in my mediumship readings and in my sittings, sometimes I question if spirit is there, but I know that they're there, just the trusting that they're there. So maybe that's what you're experiencing, right? Maybe it's a little bit intense, or you can feel it more, and then it gets subtle because spirit might say, I don't feel that we needed to make it this intense for her. Let's try it out. It's all about trusting. I feel it's all about trusting, just trusting and believing that spirit is there. I do feel that when we open up for spirit to come and either blend with us, sit with us, or be a part of our life, they always show up. Either subtle or more, if you can feel it more, or in subtle ways. They're always there. What do you feel, Marie?
Well, I absolutely agree with everything you just said. And spirit is fast. So information can come fast, right? And it's just getting comfortable with that and learning what that is. And the other piece too is sometimes when something comes that quick and poof, it's gone, I feel like maybe it just wasn't meant to be expanded on at that point in time. And I also trust that if it is, it will come back around. Because sometimes I'll get a little piece of information and maybe it's not understood right at that moment, right? For an example. And so then I will just let it be what it is. And almost every single time it will circle back around and then it will come back again, right? But in a fuller form. So that's kind of been my experience. And also, to be honest, different people I've connected with in spirit communicate also in different ways. Some are very, very vocal. I hear them very easily. And some, work more in pictures. So I really believe that those in spirit that we talk to also have strengths and things, and their communication style is also different, right? And they're all a little bit different. And so just really understanding and learning to communicate with that variety of differences, right? Does that make sense? I don't feel like but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. And Jan is saying, I feel like the second my mind wanders, I disconnect immediately. Well, allow your breath to take you back. I feel that the breath, a lot of people don't don't realize this, that your breath helps you to connect with yourself and with spirit. Whenever you feel disconnected, just follow your breath as you breathe in and breathe out, and just allow yourself to get back in that sweet spot. That's how I do it, even in my readings, to keep the power, or any practices that I do. I feel the breath is so magical, but we often forget about it, and we try to use other rituals or other things, but everything we need is in our body, and our breath is one of the most important practices to do. The breathing, that's what I feel. I don't know, what do you feel, Marie, whenever you're in that state and you lose connection? What do you do to get you back in that flow?
Yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. I focus on the breath, and I focus honestly in my heart and my center. And the other piece too is with that, Jan talked about meditation and so on and so forth. And that's a really good practice, because that's about the mind wandering and bringing it back, right? And so just practicing those quiet moments is really important. And know that everybody's mind wanders. It happens to the best of us all the time. And because our mind is a great tool, and it likes to be like, oh no, let's go over here and do this, and talk about that. But the more that you practice on acknowledging that, this is part of the mind discernment I was talking about earlier, the more that you practice on being like, oh, my mind just wandered, and that's okay. Don't judge yourself about it. Don't be harsh on yourself. Nothing. Just be like, okay. And then come back to your center. Use your breath to come back to your center. And also too, there's this little trick I learned when I did hypno training, hypnotherapy type stuff, which I did for a long time. I've been doing that for over a decade. And one of those little tricks is you can create like a trigger for yourself, is what they call it. And you know that a lot of times we associate that with something negative, but it's actually not just something negative. So when you see people, doing something with their fingers, right? Like when they're meditating or doing that, right? They have a movement. And if you do something that's comfortable with you, maybe you want to sit with your hands a certain way. And if you consistently do that when you're meditating, your mind waters, you come back, right? And you have whatever this movement is, or this holding is that you want to create for yourself, your body and your mind and everything starts to recognize that. And then you'll find that when you're in a stressful situation or something, and you do whatever that is that you created, it'll take your body right back, right? And over time, it'll make it easier. So that's just one little trick that I've used over time. That's really something that's really good to incorporate into your regular meditation practice when you're working with your mind, to just to understand and bring it back to center, because it's always going to wander at some point, right? And just learning to acknowledge it and bring it back is the important piece.
Yeah, and you don't have to do those, the procedures they teach you in the breath work. Just breathe naturally, just as you breathe. Because I have a bit of respiratory issues, so I can't do those box breathings. I can only breathe the way I can, and that works the best. That's what I find. Do you know what works for you? There's no strict regime when it comes to connecting with spirit. Each of us are going to find something that works for us best. Like with Maria and myself, she might do different things, but we both get at the same spot that we want to get to, right? And that's connecting with spirit, connecting with herself. And it works beautifully both ways. So you just have to get to know yourself. Allow yourself to show you what you need and how you need to connect. Because it's just like with mediumship, we have many teachers, but they can just guide us. At the same time, we have to learn how we connect with spirit. You understand what I'm saying? There's just that guidance that spirit teachers give to us. But the true mediumship is already instilled within us. We just need to allow it to blossom out.
Yeah. And it's really important, Janice, I love that you said to just breathe naturally and just breathe normally, because I can tell you, when you look online and there's all these breath techniques and everything, and I'm not saying there's not value to them. There is, right? But again, for all different of us. But I will say that for me, I've heard the most about just being natural. Just be natural, because otherwise you're focused on how you're breathing, right?
Yeah.
You're not focused on just being. And so, yeah, just doing it. And Jan, I have asthma too, so I understand. So it's fine. You're gonna
Yeah,
do good.
that's the reason I felt I needed to mention it, because, if people say you have to breathe a specific way, you start focusing on it and you start counting, and, it's just about just allowing your breath to just flow. And these things, I have been to a class to learn how to sit in the power because I thought I needed it. But when I went to the class, I realized, it was already in me. I just needed to allow myself to show me the way. So connecting with yourself is very important when you want to learn to connect with spirit. It's a foundation, I feel. Because if you don't know yourself, how can you learn to know spirit, That's how I feel. Notice that I focus on the regime and forget about the meditation. I was there too. I was there too. So, yeah, and so is there any other questions anyone else has, or is there anything else you want to talk about, Marie? How do you feel?
I'm just I just want to say Jan mentioned it again, and it kind of goes back to what we've talked about before, about when she talks about focusing on the regime and forgetting about certain things. Trust me, I have a very analytical mind. My regular job is very analytical, and stuff. And so then I have to step out of that, right, onto the other end of the spectrum as far as that goes. And I also have gotten in the past, I was always in this, what's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? Am I doing this right? Wait, am I not doing it right? What am I doing wrong? Right. And then I'm all over the place on that. And this was years ago. And it's taken me a long time to really work through that. And so it goes back to what you said, Janice, to just be you, and what do you need and how do you connect, right? And all of that, and not worry so much about 40 million people's different thoughts on how you should do something.
Yeah.
I like to kind of look at different things and be like, oh, I'm going to take this piece of this and this piece of this, and this part works for me, but the rest of that doesn't work for me. I liken it to, I used to be this person that when I opened a book, I had to read it from cover to cover before I was allowed myself to pick up another book. It was weird, right? This weird structured thing. And now it's like, oh, I'm going to read a couple pages in this book, and then I'm going to put that down. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab this book and read a couple pages there. So it's kind of like that, don't take everything that somebody says to you as the way it is, because for you, it might not be. Just take bits and pieces of things that you learn, that you experience, and also take it and experience it for yourself. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. If it sort of works, tweak it to make it work for you, because I feel like you'll know.
Yeah, your soul will let you know. You'll feel it in your soul and in your heart if that's meant for you. I always feel that, and I always go back and I connect with myself, and I feel it in my heart. Is this for me or it's not for me? Because it's the same, like you said, Marie, when it comes to classes, when it comes to different things, what might work for you might not work for me. So it always goes back to that, feeling in the heart.
Yeah, and I see Jan mentioned medical billing. Well, I do IT work for a living, so that gives you an idea, right? Super focused, very detailed, just like medical billing, specific codes, so on and so forth. And that's okay. And that life you can step away from. And some of that, and I'm just going to say this because honestly, I still work on this with myself, and it's been a long time that I've had to work on this. And what that is that being able to step out of that work role and that analytical, focused, detailed mind, and to be able to shift into the other, more open piece. And that's been something that I've had to work on, like, a lot over the last decade and a half. And you know what? It's okay, whatever it is, because you're aware of it, you know it, and you'll work on it.
Yeah.
And really just giving ourselves that space to be able to work on it and to not be perfect, and to just be authentically who we are at that moment, and then know that our authentic person is going to be different in 6 months or a year or a week, because we're always working towards something better, right? within ourselves. That's how I feel.
That's how I feel too. As we grow progressing in life, we grow. We experience more and we grow. So it always helps us to change our perspective on different things along the way, you know?
Yeah.
And then Jan is asking, Jan asked a lot of question, Marie, does she remind you of someone? How do you deal with telling people you're medium and they want readings 24/7?
Oh. Mm-hmm. I actually had that happen to me the other day. I was in the hearing doctor and we got on a conversation about something and I mentioned mediumship stuff and she was like, oh, this is the doctor, mind you. Oh, I love that. I love that, because I was talking about, I'm just going to be straight up honest with everybody. So this is the first thing in my life that's ever made me feel old. I'm just going to say it. But recently I was diagnosed with hearing loss and it was prescribed hearing aids, right? So it makes me feel super old. But that's a whole nother personal thing, right? That we work through. But this hearing doctor, they have the coolest things now. So you can like stream right through the hearing aids and so on and so forth. And so the kind that you pick out depends on your lifestyle. We talked about streaming and phone calls and videos all the time, and that's how we got on the subject of that. And she immediately asked me what I picked up around her and that type of a thing. And I just very, very kindly, just let her know, hey, it doesn't really work that way. Like, cause I'm in a totally different setting. Right. And it doesn't really work that way. And also I want to give somebody that time and that space if I'm going to connect for them. So I want them to be out of that work environment and sitting in a quiet space. And I want to be in a quiet space and so on and so forth. And to really honor spirit and honor that connection for them. And that's not to say that, you can, whether it's psychically and or mediumistically pick up information for somebody at the last minute. We have a lot of famous mediums that do that. But at the same time, at least for me, I like to just honor that space and that connection. And so you can say something like that, and then also be available if they want to, sit with you at another time. Is that something like, I don't know, Janice, what your experience has been, but that's kind of been for me how I work with that.
Sorry, John, I'm just teasing. It's because Maria always asks a lot of questions in class. That's the reason why I was mentioning that. We appreciate all the questions. Hi, Dominic. Hi, Dominic. Thank you for being here. For me, I haven't been faced with that yet. I'll be honest with you. There's not a lot of people that are in my life that know I do mediumship. So, but I haven't had that experience yet, so I don't know. But I would do the same as you do, Marie. There's always a place and a time for everything. And, we are not like robots that we can just work whenever someone asks us to do it, especially in the setting that you were mentioning. So I understand that completely.
Yeah. And something else this kind of reminds me of is we were talking about different mediums, right? And how different mediums work. And I've noticed there's some that like the how do I say this? I don't know, the impressive stuff, the pomp and the circumstance and the quick, really flashy type stuff. And that's okay, because we're all here to be who we are, and there's nothing wrong with that. And for me, I'm not that, now I'm not going to say that there's not a part of me that wouldn't like to be that, but really I'm just more of this person that, I observe, I watch, I really feel into things and so on and so forth. And so the reason that I really bring this up is that I think, especially here on TikTok, we see a lot of that, a lot of the flash, a lot of the acting, a lot of this kind of stuff. And again, not speaking negatively about anybody. Everybody's got kind of what they do, and that's okay. And also, I don't feel like we should judge ourselves with that information, right? Because maybe we don't work that way, and that's okay. Maybe we work a different way, in more of a quiet way. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So in short, don't feel like you have to be like everybody else. Just look and be who you are and learn who you are and how you work. And that's what I would focus on.
Yeah, I always feel that way, to embrace where you are at this moment, because that's all that you can appreciate the moment, right? And I feel that spirit will always meet you where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I have always felt with my mediumship. I have watched myself grow and I watch myself work differently, but it always kept me going, because I have always been someone that I'm not in a box type of person. I go to a class, I'll take what resonates and leave the rest. So for me, that was easier for me to embrace.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that others struggle with it. You always want to be like someone else. And you know what? Just accept where you are right now and just love it. And the more you are grateful for where you are, the more it opens up for you. Because we're all meant to be different. And even in our mediumship, right? So I always say, whatever spirit gives me in a mediumship reading, that's what is needed. So spirit always gives us what is needed. Thank you, Shahida, for the rose. Shahida is my daughter, by the way.
Oh, cool. The other piece that I'm reminded about is because I'm going to be honest with you. I have often been that person that's like, well, I want to know the vehicle they drove and that it had California plates and the plates started with, Adam Baker Charlie and whatever. And but what I've really learned over time is that how my sitter, whoever's sitting across from me, how they feel during the reading, how they feel leaving the reading, that's the important piece. Because the information that comes through, maybe my mind is saying, well, that's not flashy enough or it's not enough. And it doesn't matter what I think or what my mind tries to tell me, right? It has to do with how that person that I'm sitting across from is feeling and how it impacts them. That is the important piece for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Hi, Jan. Hi, Jen. I do feel that the same way too. I feel that mediumship is more than just giving evidence. It's about bringing the essence of the spirit loved one alive, allowing the sitter to feel them presence with them. And how do you get that? By the pieces of information that we bring forth. Just allowing spirit to give us that information, allowing the flow. It's all about the allowing. I always feel that way. And we might get a piece of information. If you tell me a daisy earring, this young man is showing me a daisy earring. For you, it's gonna just mean it's a fashionable thing. It might be a gift, but for me, it has a deeper meaning. You see, so sometimes we don't know what information we're giving to the sitters, and the reading isn't for us. We have to remember that the reading is for the sitter. So it's like you say, Marie, how the sitter leaves from there. It's not about the flashiness. It's about how they feel with the connection.
And we've been talking a lot about just different questions and things, which is wonderful. But what I would like to say is Janice and I, again, for those who weren't here in the very beginning, we are going to start a podcast. It's called Heart, Spirit, and Reality. And we want to address questions and things that people have that are hard. Questions that maybe they don't feel safe bringing up in other groups or environments that they're in on the spiritual sense. And we just want to be very open and non-judgmental and talk about these things, openly with different perceptions. And what we would really, really love is if you guys could go and search that Heart, Spirit, and Reality. You'll see our icon is like a tan and it just says SHR. And like that, because for us to go live there, we have to have at least 50 followers and we're just starting to build, right? We just started to, we both have busy lives. So we're kind of doing this, on the side. But we're just starting to build that. And we would love to be able to go live there and start, posting some podcasts and being able to do that. So if you don't mind going there and liking it, it would be awesome. We would really appreciate it. And Jan, you said, is tarot, in your opinion, okay to use alongside mediumship? I will say to you that I think whatever works for you. The one thing that I would this is only my personal experience, so I'm just going to say this from this. It doesn't mean that anybody does anything wrong, right? Because I know a lot of people use it as a tool, and using tools is good. In my shamanic work, I have a lot of tools that I use and so on and so forth. For me, though, making sure that my connection is strong without the tools has always been very, very important, right? So I always work there, and then, bring the tools in to add to the connection or to add to whatever work I'm doing. So for me, but it might be different for you or somebody else, right? And so, but that's for me been my experience, and that's just how I work. Again, so it's just a suggestion to do that. And Janice, I don't know if you have a different experience on that with tools and stuff. Again, I'm very open with using tools. I just always want to make sure that my main connection is there before I bring my tools in and use those as well. For me, that's how it works.
I personally, I'll be honest with the tarot. I started out with the tarot. That's how I started connecting with spirit. And then I call it progress, but it might not be progress. So that's just a word that came to my mind, to just working with spirit. And for me, I like to just work with spirit, but I do understand different people use different tools, and that's okay. That's okay to use different tools. Like I said, everyone is different, and you just need to embrace where you are. And that's it. You don't need to be like no one else. You just be you. And that's the beauty of it, right? Who else can we be if not ourselves?
And I love that your experience was different than mine. I love it. Because this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because we're all different. And so for me, that worked for me, but that's how I get around the mind, right? And that's how I do that. And then for you, it was the other way. And it's perfectly wonderful and okay and wonderful. So yeah, just like you said, just be you and what works for you.
Jen is saying that she can't find, is there a link somewhere to the podcast?
Did you share it? You said at Heart, Spirit, and Reality?
I've had at Heart, Spirit, and Reality.
Yeah, I think if you just search the name, let's see if it'll let me. Let's see. I don't know if it'll link it here. I haven't done it yet.
You might have, you're more techie than I am by far. So.
I'd be honest with you, I'm new at this, so I don't know how to bring in a link, but I just posted one, but it responded to I love me. But honestly, for me, I just went up and searched heart, spirit, and reality. I think and is spelled out. But and then it'll come up with users, and then you'll see the logo. It's just the SHR logo in like a earth tones. So hopefully, and then poor Jen couldn't find it either. That's not good. I don't think this lets us post pictures, does it?
I have no idea, Marie. You're asking the wrong person. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? If you go to Janice, have you shared some of the posts that you've posted? So if you go to either my TikTok site, the Liminal Weaver, Marie Davis, or Janice's Spiritual Medium Janice, if you look at our posts, there should be shares of the Heart, Spirit, and Reality. And then if you click on the post, you should be able to get to the user to like it.
I haven't shared anything, but I'll share it this evening.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, well, I have. So it's all over my feed. So, yeah. So you can do that.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we'll figure out how we, how do you link it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Doing this part, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, so we always post every day, different little questions that people might have, or just to get that interactiveness in the comments, and one of us will answer, or both of us will answer. We're always very attentive on what's happening on these different pages.
Jan, you're funny. Stalk away. It's fine. And you can message us too if you still have trouble with it, and we can probably share it that way.
Yeah. We will surely link it to you that way. I'm sorry we never thought about it that we would need a link. Well, I didn't think that far.
Nah, we were thinking about opening a conversation. And it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. So, that's what we want to do. We just want to make it just have people feel that they have a place where, they can just be open with what they're feeling, a non-judgmental place where we hold space for each other. Because even Marie and myself, we do find ourselves in those situations too, with some experiences that we might feel that we're the only one experiencing it. And, it's always good to support each other. I feel that that's very much needed in this spiritual community, or even in life on a whole, supporting each other, no matter if we know each other face to face, but just sharing the love. I find that that's very important.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And also to, being able to have that space to talk about those hard questions and to learn from each other's perceptions, because we all have experienced it in different ways,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It does feel lonely because sometimes, even myself, when I was starting out, I felt I was going crazy because I wasn't understanding what was happening. So, I know how it feels. If someone I had to wait to book a reading with a medium so she could explain to me what I was experiencing, because I didn't know. So I understand that completely. And some people are scared. Yeah, it's scary, It is scary.
You know what I just realized that I love about this, Janice, is that your experience is totally different than mine, and it's perfect, right? Because this came for you after a very traumatic situation. Like, we have life-changing events that happen, and then people, start to connect with spirit and don't know what it is, right? And it scares them and things like that. And for me, I have the other aspect of it, to where I've been experiencing this since I was a small child, and have specific memories around specific messages that were guide given that came, ended up happening in my world, and spirits sitting on the edge of my bed talking to me and stuff as a little girl. So for me, I've never really experienced the scared part or the feared part, right? But I understand it. But the reason that I bring that up is because what I love is that there's going to be people coming, hopefully, to our podcast that have experienced the way that you experienced it, or similar, or have experienced the way that I experienced it. And we'll be able to talk about that on both sides of it. And I think that's priceless, to be honest. I think it's awesome. Just the different perspectives and the different experiences everybody has is amazing. And we can learn so much from each other. It's going to be great.
I feel that too, that we can learn so much from everyone, and it's like you said, my one came with the passing of my son. And, at that moment, I only had my family. When I mean my family, my immediate family. But at the same time, maybe I needed to have that connection with spirit. That's what I needed to open me up. So when I go back and I think about it, I always feel spirit knows exactly what we need. And that's what I needed. I needed to just grow that deep and loving connection with spirit from the very beginning to get me through grief. And believe me, from after that, I have not looked back. Spirit has become a part of my daily life. They have become a part of who I am. And that's how I live my life every day now. Spirit and me, we're best friends in my mind.
I totally get it. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's interesting. Jen says here, she said, I find most mediums experience spirit as a child. I will tell you, Jen, that has not been my experience. So it's interesting that you've had that experience with the people that you've met, because my experience has been the opposite, that most of them have come into it later in life through experiences that they've had or events that have happened in their life. So it's interesting, and again, just another thing about how we all experience everything so differently and come in contact with so many different experiences.
Yeah, and I do feel that even as a child, we do experience things, but maybe we don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
That's
very true. Yeah.
We don't remember it, because I know my daughter is very connected and my youngest son is very connected too. But I do feel that it has to do a lot too with the family you grew up into, how open they were to these things. Because as a child, you come and tell your parent that you saw your loved one, or you saw grandma or grandpa. What that's gonna, people are gonna start thinking your house is haunted.
Yeah.
You know how it is, right? So
I totally get what you're talking about, and I absolutely agree, because they say that we come connected, And then as we're programmed into this life, right, by school, by parents, depending on how they grew up and how they were programmed, right, then we get programmed indoctrinated into this life, into this world. You know, you got to go to school, you got to go to work, you got to this, you got to that, you got to have a house, you got to have kids, like all of this kind of stuff. And then we just get further and further away from our connection to spirit. And I'll be honest with you, in my experience, you know, I have those specific memories and so on and so forth. I remember telling my mom, I was probably 6, and I was like, you know, everything is alive. And she was like, shh, don't talk about that. Like, that's, you know, don't do that. And the funny thing is I was like, okay, but it never changed my belief, because it was a knowing, right? And it was a belief. And I remember those kind of things. And that being said, though, I had a traumatic event happen over a 10-year period of time, which put me down this whole different path. And so then spirit was kind of not a focus, but then it would always come back in. And then it was not a focus. Then it was always come back in, right? And honestly, I just look at that and I know that spirit's never left me. It's just that I was looking at different things and experiencing different things. And you know what? That's part of why we're here. We're here to experience these things, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's what I find too. I feel the environment we grew up, you know, how open people were. My mom was always scared of spirits, while my grandma would be like, if you feel a spirit close by, you can tell them to go away, you know? And my mom grew up with my grandma, but she still had a different mentality. Well, my grandma was quite open to all of this. Yeah. So it's so different, right?
It was very similar in my house. My grandma we would talk about stuff like this, right? But then my mom was the one that was like, oh, don't say that out loud. Don't like to say that in public.
Yeah. My mom gets scared whenever someone dies that she knows, because she feels their presence in the house, and then she thinks they're haunting her. So my mom is that way. She gets scared quite easily, you know. So it's interesting, you know, how people grow up in the same family, but they have different experiences even that way. So, yeah. And I bet that everyone, you know, each of us mediums, if we go back, we'd realize that in life, our experiences help us get us to where we are today.
Yes.
Like being mediums. Absolutely. So I do feel that although the experiences might be tragic, but it still opens up a beautiful part of us. You know, it allows us to see the beauty within ourselves and have that understanding that we never die. You know, there's always life after death, and it's just so beautiful, because honestly, if it wasn't for my recognition of that, I don't know if I would still be here, you know, with everything that has happened, with my son passing and everything. So I feel so blessed that I'm getting to experience this, right?
Yeah, I understand about feeling blessed about experiences, and I have not gone through anything like you've gone through in that way, and I did go through, you know, 10 years of my own trauma stuff and being in an abusive situation, so it just was a different learning experience for me, right? And yeah, and we all have those. And the thing of it is, though, and it reminds me of, you know, they talk about there's always a silver lining on the dark cloud. It reminds me of like a Mr. Rogers quote, and forgive me, I'm not going to get it 100% right, but it was this quote, and I don't know if anybody remembers Mr. Rogers, right? We're talking dated stuff here, but he had this show on TV for kids, and his mom, I think it was his mom that always told him to like they would see all these bad people in the world, and she said focus on the helpers and focus on the people who do good, right? And that's the thing, is when we're going through really difficult situations and things like that, we have to honor that, and we have to grieve it, and we have to experience it and go through it so we don't hold it in our bodies, right? And at the same time, we also have to acknowledge the pieces of it that help us and that are good, because there's always something in my experience anyway. There's always something, no matter how hard the situation is, there's always something in it that is good and helpful.
I find that too, and I believe in that strongly. No matter what you're experiencing, there's something that is good in it, even if it's just the growth that you're going to experience, but there's always something good in it. That's how I started looking at life. And I know it might sound crazy, but it's kind of from when my son passed away to where I am, it's like I'm a different person. You understand? I see life differently. No matter what I experience, I always go back to my heart, to my soul. I always see things through my heart and my soul. That's how I feel. You know, it helps you to grow a compassion, not only for others, but also for yourself.
And you know what's interesting about that? This is exactly how spirit works in my world. In the very beginning, we were talking to Jan about the discernment of the mind and feeling into it with the heart and the center. And look how I can feel this energy winding down, but look at how we've come full circle. And you just talked about the same thing, but in a different aspect, about how you always come back to the center, into your heart. And that's where you see, right? And not the mind. So do you see that, Janice? I love that full circle. We just came right back around, and there's spirit. I mean, this is how it works.
Yeah, it is. For me, that's how it works, you know, because I have to have that as a motivation to get me through life. And if, you know, we won't agree with everyone or we won't like everyone, but I always try to find something good in everyone, every experience, everything. So that's just how it's been for me. You know, it helps me going, keep me going and everything else. So.
And with that, I would love, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I just feel like it's probably a good time to wrap up. And just again, you know, would love it if you guys, you can probably go to our feeds and see the posts that we've shared for this podcast that we're building, but called Heart, Spirit, and Reality. And we would love it if you guys would follow so that we can get, you know, those 50 followers and start going live there and start having these open conversations with people. So we'd be really love it. And thank you so much for joining us today and having this conversation with us about multiple subjects. It was great.
Yeah, I feel so too, Marie. I don't know what's going on here with this live. It says it will end in 4 minutes and 25 seconds. So it's kind of like spirit led.
There we go. There's the sign.
So thank you guys.
That's just validation for what we just said about feeling the energy winding down. I gotta love it, right?
Yeah. So thank you guys for being here with us. And I don't know what Marie says, that maybe we're gonna be popping up every so often where you guys can come and join us. We'll be discussing different topics or whatever you guys are struggling with. Just like I said, just to hold space for each other and helping each other grow and showing each other that we have the love and support. Even if we are miles away from each other, we can still find it somehow.
Absolutely.
So thank you guys for being here and have a good evening.
Have a good evening.